Reported Friday, the personal consumption expenditures index was up 2.5% in February when compared to a year earlier. It's a bad sign for the Fed, who is hoping to back off its push on inflation rates. And the IRS's Criminal Investigation Unit says it's looked into tax and money laundering cases worth almost $9 billion. The more than 1,600 cases are related to COVID fraud. The agency says almost 800 people have been indicted for their alleged COVID-related crimes. 373 of them have been sentenced to time in federal prison. The Criminal Investigation Unit says it has a 98.5% conviction rate in prosecuted COVID fraud cases. A major vehicle recall tonight. Kia recalled more than 427,000 Telluride SUVs. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the SUV can roll away while in park. All Telluride vehicles made between 2020 and 2023, as well as certain 2024 models, are affected by the recall. Owners are being asked to take the SUV to a Kia dealer and have an updated electronic parking brake software installed.
Been a beautiful start to Easter weekend, and tomorrow morning we continue with the nice weather. We'll wake up to sunny skies, but by the afternoon the next weather maker arrives, leading to rain. This rain will clear out right in time for Easter Sunday, so you have the green light all day long. We start the morning in the 50s, then by the afternoon we're looking at temperatures reaching the 60s and the 70s. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at the timing of tomorrow's rain, and I'll let you know how it looks on Easter Sunday into next week in my full forecast in about 20 minutes. Back to you.
All right, Jasmine, thanks. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6, the Baltimore harbor is shut down, and that means thousands could be out of work. The push in Annapolis to support the workers and businesses who face an uncertain future. And it will take weeks to clear the river, but help is on the way. The impact the biggest crane on the East Coast could have on the Key Bridge recovery effort.
The largest crane on the East Coast arrives to remove debris in the Port of Baltimore. The additional equipment on the way, and how long the cleanup effort could take. Residents mourn the lost lives in the collapse, how the city is honoring the 6 victims and their families. And lawmakers race to help port employees impacted by this tragedy, the new measure to provide aid to those workers.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
We are continuing our breaking news coverage of the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse. More cranes and tugboats are on the way to help remove debris in the Port of Baltimore. Right now, the largest crane on the East Coast has arrived to begin cleaning up. The federal government is sending 2 more cranes to help out. One will arrive tonight and another on Monday. The governor says the debris removal operation will include 7 floating cranes of various sizes, along with multiple tugboats, barges, and salvage vessels. More than 4,000 tons of bridge and debris are currently in the river. It is an operation the governor says will take a while.
I want this done quickly. I want it done right. We are committed to getting it done, and you can bet on it. We are going to get this done. But this is going to be a long road.
Good evening, and thanks for staying with us. I'm Maxine Stryker. The city is mourning the loss of life from this tragedy heading into Easter weekend. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell shows us how one organization is honoring the victims.
Governor Wes Moore says clearing this debris is part of the priority to help bring some closure to these families. Behind me, the vantage point from where he provided his latest update, the collapse, the wreckage. We know at least 2 cranes are now in the water. Meanwhile, we're learning more about those lives lost. 26-year-old Dorlian Castillo Cabrera was an immigrant from Guatemala. His body and the body of 35-year-old Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes recovered late Tuesday after the collapse of the Key Bridge. The 4 other construction workers who have yet to be recovered include Miguel Luna, a father of 3 from El Salvador. The nonprofit CASA, which provides services to working-class families from marginalized communities, including immigrants, said Luna lived in Maryland for more than 19 years. Also among those presumed dead, 38-year-old Maynor Yasser Suazo Sandoval, a Honduran national, one of 8 siblings, a husband, and a father of 2. Maynor's brother desperately waiting for any update.
He was the breadwinner for his children right now. God is going to provide for us too, so we can get together as a family and see how we can help each other, because at this moment, his wife is left with his girls and everything.
Meanwhile, CASA held a press conference in Baltimore this afternoon. The organization honoring the victims. Other construction workers sharing their stories about the hard and dangerous job. As we know, the crew repairing potholes on the Key Bridge when the unthinkable happened. And leaders with CASA say they've been in communication with Governor Wes Moore concerning assistance for the families. In Sparrows Point, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. With the port shut down, thousands of people are without jobs. Businesses are losing revenue. Despite that, the community is coming together to support one another.
I think sometimes when they have tragedies like that, it brings them closer together.
Long term, we build it back and get it back to better than what it was, maybe bigger than what it was.
We're praying for you guys. Just stay strong.
Lawmakers in Annapolis are now working to provide some relief to port workers, but it's not clear exactly how they'll do it. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost takes a closer look.
At the end of session Friday in the House,
Madam Speaker, on March 26, 2024, the Francis Scott Key Bridge fell into the harbor.
sponsor Delegate Luke Klippinger asking lawmakers to allow a late bill introduction.
This legislation would seek to provide assistance for those individuals and those businesses who are now out of work.
Members unanimously allowing the proposal to move forward.
There have been 140 votes in the affirmative.
The plan isn't clear just yet, but the entire goal is to offer direct assistance to thousands of people now out of work. Delegate Klippinger says the legislation could impact 35,000 direct and indirect jobs that have been impacted by the sudden shutdown of shipping at the Port of Baltimore. Though the exact number isn't clear, nor is the total price tag of the plan.
The challenge with identifying a specific dollar sign is we don't really know how long this is going to take. It's meant to provide some basic assistance at this point so that they can make sure that there's food on the table and that rent's getting paid.
Would it have any sort of sunset language, or how long would this assistance be available?
It doesn't have sunset language, but obviously when the port was able to get up and running again, there wouldn't be a need for this.
How do you codify that?
That's difficult to codify. There's no question about that.
The legislation seeks to enable Governor Westmore to create a plan to get the money out the door and into the hands of those most impacted. Though how much people and businesses will be eligible to receive isn't known. The governor making it clear this is a priority.
Taking care of our people.
During a Thursday update, announcing a new way for people to start getting some help.
The Maryland Department of Labor now has established a hotline for unemployment insurance for workers affected by the collapse.
That number, 667-930-5989. Delegate Klippinger says the direct payment plans being crafted would not be on top of unemployment benefits. The bill is quickly being put together, but the bipartisan support is there. Some lawmakers say they're standing with the plan for as long as the assistance is necessary.
In my gut, I would probably say 6, 9, 12 months. However, if it's longer, I'm willing to reach into my pocket to help whoever. You know, we've got to get the job done. If you don't vote for this, you have no heart.
The bill will now be part of the budgeting conversation, setting up an incredibly busy and critical week next week for lawmakers as they work to get everything done.
It's an emergency bill, so it would come into force as soon as the governor signed it.
Before the final gavel of session on April 8th.
That bill language requires the funds to be dispersed by the end of June of this year. Businesses who receive the funding would also be required to pay the state back within 6 months after the port reopens and they start making money again. Baltimore's port is a key point in the U.S. supply chain for both the auto and agricultural industry. More than 840,000 cars and trucks were shipped through the port of Baltimore last year. And according to the Farm Bureau, more than 1.5 metric tons of meat, eggs, seeds, dairy products, and other common food items came through the port of Baltimore last year. Those imports are worth more than $3 billion. While port employees find themselves in a dire situation with the harbor's closure, residents in Dundalk are grappling with their new reality. Key Brewing Company hosting a fundraiser to raise money for port workers struggling financially. We spoke with some Dundalk residents about how the loss of the bridge and life is impacting their community.
More, you know, it's hard. It's going to be very hard to keep up with all the expenses that we have, because we don't know what's going to happen, how long it's going to take, you know, to get back, you know, the bridge.
It's something that you never want to see, especially the people that might have lost their life over it. But for us, we try to take it day to day, and hopefully we can continue to work.
Governor Moore is calling the 3 MDTA officers who shut the bridge down before the collapse heroes. Those officers, there on your screen, are Sergeant Pastorek, Corporal Herbert, and Officer Kurtz, honored at the Orioles opening day yesterday. Fox 45 News spoke with the president of the MDTA Police Union, who says they saved dozens of lives.
I've spoken to these officers, and they each told me that they had approximately 25 to 30 cars behind them. That's almost 60 people that would have been on that bridge and fallen in the water had they not stopped the traffic.
Representatives from the EPA also provided an update on environmental concerns after the crash, saying there is no hazardous materials in the water.
At this time, there's no indication of active releases from the vessel, nor of the presence of materials that are hazardous to human health in the water. However, monitoring is ongoing, and we will work through the Unified Command to report and review and be transparent of any results from this monitoring as they become available.
We'll have more on the what's next after the Key Bridge collapse coming up. And later tonight on Fox 45 News at 10, you can also find all of our reporting right now on our website at foxbaltimore.com. If you're hosting an Easter gathering this weekend, as many of us are, you might be in for some nice spring weather on Sunday. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax joins us with a look at the forecast. Hey, Jasmine.
Hey, Maxine. We are in for a very nice Easter weekend. First tonight, our temperatures are going to gradually fall to the 40s, mild as the Day begins tomorrow, so if you are traveling anywhere tonight or tomorrow morning, you have the green light ahead of Easter, but notice by tomorrow afternoon, the yellow light as we get ready for the next round of showers. The rain could impact your travel on Saturday, but by Sunday, we'll return to a nice and dry pattern for Easter Sunday. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at the timing of the rain and what you can expect on Sunday in my full forecast. Back to you.
I'm Janae Bowens in Washington with a look at human trafficking investigations in the United States.
And we'll have continuing coverage on the cleanup efforts in the Port of Baltimore. We continue our coverage now of the tragic Key Bridge collapse. 2 cranes have arrived to help clean up in the Patapsco River, another 2 on the way. The Coast Guard has transitioned to a salvage effort because they believe the remaining vehicles in the water are encased in the superstructure of the bridge. 2 bodies were recovered from the water. 35-year-old Alejandro Hernandez Fuentes of Baltimore and 26-year-old Dorlian Castillo Cabrera of Dundalk. 4 people are still missing and presumed dead. Switching gears now, a federal law enforcement source tells CNN rapper Sean Diddy Combs is a target of an investigation unit that handles human trafficking crimes. The investigation shining a light on sex trafficking across the country. Sinclair National correspondent Janae Bowens has a look at the severity of the issue.
After months of sexual assault lawsuits, CNN reports a federal law enforcement source says hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs is a target of an investigative unit that handles human trafficking crimes.
At the appropriate time, we'll be happy to speak about it, but it's an ongoing investigation.
Authorities are staying tight-lipped for now, but federal agents searched the rapper's homes in Los Angeles and Miami earlier this week.
What investigators appear to be looking for, and this would be appropriate, are laptops and phones and thumb drives.
The investigation into Diddy helps put into focus the proven human trafficking issues across the country. It's the business of exploiting vulnerable people for sex and profit.
It's estimated that 72% of those trafficked in the U.S. are immigrants.
It's an issue some say is further exacerbated by the Biden administration's border policies, especially since border authorities encountered a record high of more than 152,000 unaccompanied children in fiscal year 2022 alone.
Many of these children will enter the U.S. illegally and be put at risk of sexual exploitation.
According to Polaris, the operator of the National Human Trafficking Hotline, undocumented immigrants and those facing poverty or economic need are more vulnerable to trafficking. Experts say parents and guardians must keep a close eye on their children, too.
Many cases where young people are lured away from their parents and their grandparents via social media.
And Maxine, bringing it full circle, when it comes to the investigation into Combs, his attorney told CNN that there was, quote, no excuse for the large show of force by law enforcement agencies. He also said his client is innocent and will work to clear his name. Combs has not been charged or arrested.
Janae, what's the scope of human trafficking here in the U.S.?
Well, since it takes place behind closed doors, it's difficult for law enforcement to track. Now, victims are also scared of retaliation and oftentimes remain silent. But in 2021, more than 10,000 situations of human trafficking were reported to the U.S. National Human Trafficking Hotline, involving nearly 16,600 individual victims. But again, experts say these numbers are likely only a fraction of the actual problem. Maxine?
All right, Janae, thanks for joining us tonight. Republican-led states are suing to block President Biden's income-driven student loan repayment plan. The SAVE plan, it aims to provide more affordable monthly payments for borrowers as well as a faster path to loan cancellation. The federal lawsuit is led by Kansas and backed by 10 other states. It argues President Biden overstepped his authority in creating the plan and asks a judge to halt it immediately. The program was announced in 2022 alongside Biden's student loan forgiveness plan, which the Supreme Court rejected last year. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says today's inflation numbers are about what the Fed's expected. The Fed's preferred gauge showed price increases cooling last month after a larger uptick than previously reported in January. Powell says Fed members are not going to overreact to any new numbers.
You won't hear us overreacting to these 2 months that are higher. The reason that's important is that the decision to begin to reduce rates is a very, very important one because the risks are two-sided.
Well, if they move too soon, it could lead to higher inflation. But if they don't move fast enough, the country could fall into a recession. Fed officials believe they have time with the economy growing and the labor market strong, even as some policymakers complain higher rates are impacting American wallets.
Right now, you're taking a look over Baltimore and over Towson, where we have plenty of sunshine. On the HD radar, it's pretty quiet around Maryland, but we are getting ready for our next weather maker, and that could lead to some showers impacting your travel ahead of Easter Sunday. Right now, we are nice and dry, 60 for the current temperature. It's a little breezy. Winds are out of the northwest around 18 miles per hour, but otherwise, it's been a pretty nice start to the weekend across the state. We're mainly seeing temperatures in the 50s and the 60s at this hour. Lots of sunshine all across Maryland. Now, when we talk about those winds, we're seeing gusts greater than 20, even 30 miles per hour across some parts of the state. So if you're going anywhere this evening, be prepared for the windy conditions. Tonight, the winds will start to calm down as temperatures drop to the 30s and the 40s for a mild start to the day tomorrow. We wake up to nice and dry weather, but this warm front is going to move east and over our region. That's going to lead to the next chance for showers. On the future scan, notice that we're talking nice and clear skies tonight. We wake up tomorrow morning to plenty of sunshine, but by midday, clouds move in ahead of that next weather maker. Now, the entire day is not going to be a washout. The rain arrives around 3, 4, 5 p.m. We're tracking scattered showers, and at times the rain could be heavy. This will be a quick system. It clears by midnight, and then starting off on Easter morning, we are looking at nice and dry weather. We'll have a mix of sunshine and clouds, and temperatures reaching the 60s and 70s. 38 for the low temperature tonight with clear skies. Then tomorrow, highs reach 63 with the chance for showers during the afternoon. On Easter Sunday, those numbers continue to rise. We're looking at highs in the upper 60s and low 70s. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at the weekend forecast and when we'll have the next chance for rain in the exclusive 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Easter weekend is off to a magnificent start in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Those sunny skies should stick around through at least tomorrow. Recent rainfall helped create this beautiful view in Tennessee's Cherokee National Forest. Middle altitude altocumulus clouds filled the skies over Syracuse this week. And we end the week with this golden sunset over Pensacola, Florida.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on TikTok.
Thousands of tons of debris stuck in the Port of Baltimore. The additional aid on the way to help get the job done. Debris removal teams and more equipment are headed to Baltimore. Brad Bell from our St. Clair sister station in D.C. has the details.
Today, we're getting a look at exactly how the Baltimore Ship Channel will be cleared and the massive equipment which will be used to do the job, starting with the now famous Chesapeake 1000 crane, able to lift 1,000 tons, equal to about a 75-foot section of the bridge. Arriving on scene last night and staged now at the Trade Point Atlantic dock near the bridge. The marine contractors brought in to do the job, planning on cutting the bridge into sections. First, freeing the ship, then clearing the channel. All that steel and concrete will likely be brought ashore here at the Trade Point Atlantic site to be shredded and trucked away. For now, though, the job is still in the engineering stage as they try to figure out exactly what to cut and where. And Governor Wes Moore remains unwilling to discuss a timeline.
The key bridge, which sits on top of the vessel right now, that weight is somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 tons. So our team needs to cut that truss into sections in a safe, in a responsible, and in an efficient way before it can lift those pieces out of the water. This crane that we're looking at is massive. The thing we also know is this: so is the challenge ahead of us.
The Army Corps of Engineers colonel spearheading the effort, also unwilling to commit to a timeline. She says the planning and engineering phase is deliberate so that when they start lifting, it will go quickly. In Dundalk, Brad Bell, 7 News.
We are in for a pretty nice Easter weekend. Tomorrow, we start with dry weather. There's the chance for a few afternoon showers, but the day won't be a washout. The rain clears overnight, and for Easter Sunday, we're looking at a beautiful forecast. We'll have a mix of sunshine and clouds. High temperatures approach 70 degrees. It's followed by a big cool down, though, and a rainy pattern. We'll have rain on Monday with highs around 57. Expect widespread showers on Tuesday, again with highs around 57, 58 on Wednesday with another round of rain, and then we start to dry out